Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive, the podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if the story of Grigori Rasputin isn't just a tale of a mad monk, but a designed distraction to hide the failures of an entire system?
So when you hear the name Grigori Rasputin, what's the first image that truly springs to mind?
Well, for many of us, I think it's that whole package, isn't it? Shadowy intrigue, maybe the hypnotic eyes.
Definitely a sinister vibe.
Right. We've all heard the popular story, the quote-unquote mad monk.
Yeah, the one who supposedly bewitched the Romanovs, gained this incredible influence, and basically helped bring down an entire empire. That's the story we get fed.
And what's really striking when you dig into it is how consistent that story is. It almost feels, well, manufactured.
Manufactured how?
It paints Rasputin as this larger-than-life character, often framed with these dramatic, almost supernatural overtones. We're told he was this peasant, right? Emerged from the Siberian wilderness, claiming mystic powers.
Some versions even say he claimed to be the second coming of Christ.
Exactly, which immediately sets a very specific tone, doesn't it? It's designed to provoke a strong reaction right off the bat.
It absolutely does. And the narrative just builds from there, layer on layer. He supposedly forms a cult,
A dangerous one.
manipulates the Romanovs, gets this unbreakable hold, especially over the Tsarina.
And the story hammers home that his influence was a primary cause, maybe the primary cause, of the dynasty's fall.
It's almost Shakespearean, this epic struggle, good versus evil.
With priests apparently calling him the Antichrist. I mean, it doesn't get much more loaded than that.
And they even use his background, right? Siberia?
Yeah, the dumping ground for criminals and exiles. The implication is clear.
Yeah.
He's inherently corrupt, tainted from birth almost.
It's like they're prejudging him based on geography.
Totally. And then they sprinkle in these tales, childhood visions, maybe some healing powers.
Which just adds to the confusion. Is he Christ-like or demonic?
The narrative forces that choice. There's no room for complexity, is there? And then, of course, his early life.
The drinking, the stealing, the alleged abuse.
Presented as absolute proof. See? He was always evil. It seals the deal. It's a very, very carefully constructed psychological profile.
It's incredibly effective. So, okay, let's deconstruct this. Why does this version stick so hard? What emotional buttons is it pushing?
That's the key question.
Is it just fear of manipulation, that primal fear of someone having hidden control?
Could be. Or maybe cosmic dread, the idea that, dark forces can just walk into the halls of power.
Or maybe just simple moral outrage. We want a clear villain sometimes.
I think it taps into all of that. Fear, fascination, outrage. It makes a narrative incredibly sticky, resilient.
Okay, it taps into those primal fears, definitely. But what if the linchpin, the biggest piece of proof for his power, was actually just a misunderstanding? A big one.
You're talking about the healing, aren't you, Alexei?
Exactly. The miracle healing of Alexei, the Tsar's son, the one with hemophilia. That's always presented as the ultimate evidence, right? Supernatural intervention. Divine, demonic, take your pick.
It's the cornerstone of the legend for many people. But, okay, let's unpack this, really look at it. When we strip away the myth, what do we find?
A rational vulnerability, you argue.
A crucial one. His so-called miraculous healing. It lines up perfectly with him simply stopping the doctors from giving Alexei aspirin.
Aspirin? That sounds almost too simple. How does not giving aspirin become a miracle?
Well, think about it. Back then, aspirin was common, often given for pain, even in conditions like Alexei's.
What?
But what we know now is that aspirin is a powerful blood thinner.
Okay.
For someone with hemophilia whose blood already doesn't clot properly, giving them aspirin, it's potentially catastrophic. It would make any bleeding, internal or external, much, much worse.
Right, so Rasputin steps in.
And maybe just tells them, stop the doctors, let the boy rest, or maybe he specifically advises against their treatments, including the aspirin, by simply stopping that unknowingly harmful practice.
Alexei's condition would naturally improve, or at least stop getting worse from the aspirin?
Exactly. It would look like a profound, almost instant miracle. He didn't do anything supernatural. He just stopped something harmful that was being done based on the medical knowledge of the time.
Wow. Okay, that's not just a footnote. That feels like it pulls the rug out from under the whole supernatural premise.
Doesn't it? It really undermines the foundation of his supposed divine or demonic power.
Because if his greatest miracle, the one everyone points to, has a perfectly rational, almost mundane explanation, what does that suggest about the rest of the legend?
It suggests we should be asking a lot more questions.
And crucially, why have we been told the supernatural versions so insistently? Who benefits from us believing that over the logical explanation?
Precisely. And that leads us to the next layer. His role in the fall of the Romanovs. The popular story makes him the architect of chaos, right?
Single-handedly steering Russia into disaster. His political appointments were supposedly terrible, incompetent.
Contributing to the disastrous entry into World War I, the suffering of the people.
It all gets laid at his feet.
But attributing that much power, that much impact, to one person.
Yeah.
That's classic great man theory of history.
Which is, remind us.
Basically, the idea that history is shaped primarily by exceptional individuals, heroes, villains, leaders. It simplifies these vast, complex processes down to the choices of a few key figures.
And you're saying that's misleading here.
Hugely misleading. Look, Tsar Nicholas II, he was widely seen as weak, indecisive, frankly, ineffective, long before Rasputin was whispering in anyone's ear.
The problems were already baked in.
Deeply baked in.
Yeah.
The Russian government was notoriously corrupt, inefficient. You had centuries of autocratic rule, massive social inequality, a rigid system just waiting to crack.
So blaming Rasputin is convenient.
It's a gross oversimplification. It ignores the enormous systemic flaws that had been festering for generations, pushing Russia towards revolution anyway.
And if we pull back, look at the bigger picture. This feels like a textbook propaganda move.
How so?
It's the same pattern, isn't it? When a system is failing, find a scapegoat. Point the finger away from the real sources of power and decay.
Like the Nazis blaming Jewish people for Germany's economic problems after World War I.
Exactly. Direct the public's anger onto a convenient, often marginalized figure or group. It's the ultimate trick of the powerful. Get people angry at the outsider, the other, so they don't question the system itself.
Convince them to eat their own.
Yeah. Who benefits more? Believing a mad monk destroyed an empire, or acknowledging that the empire was already crumbling under its own weight, its own corruption, its own inequality?
It's a crucial distinction. And this kind of scapegoating, this villainous great man narrative, it clashes directly with other ways of seeing history. We'll take Taoism, for instance. It wouldn't point to one guy. It would suggest the dynasty collapsed because it lost the mandate of heaven, essentially. It became rigid, unjust, disconnected from the way, from the people. It's an internal decay, a loss of balance.
So systemic failure, not individual evil.
Or look at it through a Marxist lens. Rasputin isn't the cause, he's a symptom. A superstructural phenomenon, reflecting the deep contradictions between a decadent ruling class and a suffering populace on the verge of revolution.
These frameworks force you to look beyond the flashy individual to the underlying structures.
Exactly. Structures that were pushing Russia to the brink long before Rasputin became a household name.
Okay, but what about the prophecy? That feels pretty spooky, pretty hard to explain away.
Ah yes, the prophecy.
Yeah.
If he's killed by a Romanov relation, the whole family dies within 2 years.
Yeah.
And it happened. Seems like solid proof of foresight.
Right. How do you deconstruct that?
Logic, mostly. It's a textbook case of what's called the post-hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy.
Latin for...
After this, therefore because of this. Just because B happened after A doesn't mean A caused B.
Okay. Apply that here.
The Romanovs were sitting on a powder keg. Revolution wasn't just possible, it was becoming probable, arguably inevitable given the war, the suffering, the political climate. Their execution wasn't some mystical curse fulfilling itself.
It was a likely political outcome of a revolution.
A near certainty, you could argue, especially once the Tsar abdicated and they were prisoners. Rasputin's prophecy wasn't supernatural insight. It was an astute, maybe even lucky guess based on the political realities unfolding around him. An educated guess about a highly probable event.
So less mystic foresight, more reading the writing on the wall.
Precisely. Not magic, just pattern recognition in a volatile situation.
And that belief in prophecy itself, it's disempowering, isn't it? If you believe it's all fated, why bother resisting? Why trying to change things?
It's a perfect mental prison. It encourages passivity. You accept outcomes instead of analyzing causes. It diverts energy from understanding why things are happening.
Okay, prophecy debunked. What about his death? The story is legendary.
Oh, the death scene. Poison, shooting, drowning. Still alive under the ice.
Yeah.
It's pure myth-making.
Makes him seem indestructible. Demonic, even.
Or saintly, depending on who's telling it. But again, let's apply some rational thought.
Go on.
Cyanide in cakes. It can degrade, especially if exposed to air or moisture. Or maybe the dose was wrong. It doesn't always work instantly or effectively.
Okay. The shooting.
First shot wasn't immediately fatal. That happens all the time in shootings, unfortunately. People can survive initial wounds, even seem to recover briefly before succumbing.
And the drowning, still trying to escape.
Cold water immersion triggers something called the mammalian diving reflex. It dramatically slows the heart rate and metabolism to conserve oxygen. It can make someone appear alive or conscious much longer than you'd expect, especially in icy water.
So, physiology, not supernatural resilience.
It's a combination of plausible physiological responses and, let's be honest, the human love for a sensational story. We want the myth. It transforms a messy, brutal murder into something epic.
It serves the narrative's hunger for the extraordinary over the mundane facts.
Exactly. The facts are inconvenient to the legend.
So pulling all these threads together, how do these different elements, the misunderstood healing, the scapegoating, the prophecy, the mythic death, how do they all work together to keep us locked into this distorted view?
One key mechanism, I think, is what we could call the either-or of power.
Meaning?
The narrative frames Rasputin's abilities, his influence, his very nature, as only being understandable through two lenses: divine or demonic, good or evil, saint or devil.
There's no other option presented.
None. And this forces everything into a simplistic Christian framework, a framework that, conveniently, the established church claims sole authority to interpret and control. Anything outside that binary
Gets labeled demonic by default.
Precisely. It's the same logic the Spanish Inquisition used, wasn't it? Any spiritual power or experience not sanctioned by the church was heresy, witchcraft, a threat to their monopoly on truth.
It's control mechanism. Accept their binary and you give up your own critical thinking.
We do. You lose the ability to see the complex reality of charisma, psychology, influence, maybe even things we don't fully understand yet. You're stuck in good versus evil.
It reminds me of how some Buddhist traditions view cities or psychic powers. They aren't necessarily good or evil, just phenomena, potential distractions even, not this stark moral battle.
Or think about Foucault's ideas on power knowledge. Labeling Rasputin demonic wasn't just a description. It was a strategic move by the established powers, the church, the aristocracy, to disqualify a rival source of influence, someone they couldn't control, and maintain their own narrative dominance.
And then there's the other big distraction tool.
The prurient cover story.
The endless focus on sex. The Kleisty cult connections, the alleged orgies, the rumors about the Tsarina, the daughters.
It's incredibly salacious, designed to provoke disgust, moral outrage, titillation even.
And while those accusations are serious, if true, the focus on them serves a purpose, doesn't it?
An incredibly effective one. It acts as this powerful emotional lever, a smokescreen.
How so?
It gets everyone absolutely obsessed with one man's alleged sexual deviancy.
So nobody looks too closely at the systemic sexual and political predation that was likely happening throughout the aristocratic class, the very people pointing fingers at Rasputin.
Exactly. Focus on the lurid details about the monk, and you conveniently ignore the potentially widespread rottenness within the system itself. It's classic misdirection.
They get you obsessed with, the rumored scandals of one individual, so you never ask who really holds the power, who benefits from the system as it is.
It's a tactic used again and again to discredit anyone who challenges the status quo: revolutionaries, activists. Focus on their personal lives, real or imagined flaws, to distract from their message or the systemic issues they raise.
It's also interesting to think about the holy fool idea here, the Yuridivy in Russian Orthodoxy.
The figure who acts crudely, even scandalously, to challenge the powerful and expose hypocrisy.
Right. Rasputin's behavior, his crudeness, might have resonated with that archetype for some Russians, even while the elite used it purely as evidence of his depravity. It's a complex cultural context completely ignored by the simple mad monk story.
It highlights how different frameworks like Confucianism's emphasis on propriety, or even Nietzsche's free spirit challenging norms, would interpret his actions entirely differently. But the dominant narrative flattens all that complexity.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the ultimate deception here isn't just about Rasputin himself, is it?
No, not at all. The ultimate deception is the idea that history is just this simple story. Singular heroes, singular villains, a cosmic drama between good and evil.
Instead of, perhaps, the far more predictable, grinding result of material conditions, economic pressures, political systems, and the relentless dynamics of unaccountable power.
Exactly. Rasputin becomes the perfect puppet in this narrative. They make him the puppet master to hide the real hands, pulling the strings, the failing czarist regime, the maneuvering church, the crumbling state apparatus.
So the story isn't really about Rasputin.
It's a warning. A warning from power structures about what happens when you challenge their control, their narrative, their influence. They'll twist your story. They'll turn you into a monster, then a myth.
And finally, maybe a weird exhibit in a museum, completely stripped of context.
Don't fear the individual Rasputins the system points to. Fear the systems themselves, the ones that create the conditions for such figures to rise, then need to demonize and destroy them to maintain the lie of their own legitimacy, their own stability.
Your mind, your ability to see through the narrative, that's the real battleground. It's the only thing they can't truly own unless you let them.
It's time to burn these mental prisons down. See the machinery.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Who is the modern-day Rasputin? Who is the scapegoat being used right now to distract us from a failing system?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.